Ahla sahla, everybody. Good day to you and welcome to Radio Baladi. I'm your guest host, Renée Ahee, and I'm delighted to be back on US Arab Radio. And now with the magic of cloud-based video conferencing, you can see us as well as hear us. And I hope you will enjoy this conversation and we can all learn from this conversation. If you're a longtime listener to US Arab Radio, you might recall some of the topics that we've covered together: the Palestinian-Israeli crisis, the critical importance of having your voice heard by voting in our elections, teaching as a viable career for Arab Americans and the value of a college education to advance our community, and most recently, a conversation with Arab American women on their experiences with bias and how to overcome it. So today, I'd like to continue the conversation to make a critical point. Despite overwhelming professional and personal success, Arab and Arab American women are still discriminated against, still paid less than their male counterparts, and still subjugated to the old and outdated mores, which is not only an injustice to these women, but to the men in our society, by the way, and deprives them of being respected and paid appropriately for their work, and deprives the rest of us from their amazing contributions to the betterment of society. So I'm happy to be back with you on Radio Baladi, and we'll continue the discussion about women, the mothers of invention. So may I start with some facts? In an article titled "Salary Gap Between Male and Female Physicians Adds Up to $2 million in Lifetime Earnings." That article was in an online publication called Stat by Elizabeth Cooney, and it was written on December 6th of 2021. So this is new data and important data. She writes, "Women may now equal or outnumber men in medical school classes, but their lifetime earnings as doctors still fall short of parity. A persistent 25% pay gap between female and male physicians adds up to $2 million over a medical career," a new analysis calculates, after accounting for specialty, hours, locations, and years of experience. I don't know about you, but this upsets me greatly to think that women who have gone through as much medical education preparation, as much as what I call hard labor as residents, and continue to be responsible for more family obligations than men, this is a travesty. To think that hospitals and clinics have the temerity to pay their female doctors less is bad enough, but they also experience other expressions of bias in the workplace. What would the world be like if women's talents and skills, which affect the world condition for the better, if we were devoid of bias, discrimination, and violence that disproportionately affect women? Think about it. Today, you'll meet two amazing Arab American women who will share their journeys into and through male-dominated professions, what they have experienced, what they have accomplished, and what they believe Arab and Arab American women can do to overcome challenges that they face as well. So I'd like to first introduce you to Dr. Amal AlShrouf, a pulmonologist and sleep medicine specialist. Dr. AlShrouf received her bachelor's and medical degrees from the College of Medicine at the University of Jordan in Amman, and did her internal medicine residency and pulmonary fellowship at St. Joseph's Hospital in Paterson, New Jersey. She completed her sleep medicine fellowship at Newark Beth Israel Hospital in Newark, and she's in private practice at the Paterson Community Clinic. Originally from Amman, Jordan, Dr. AlShrouf came to the US in 1995 to pursue her residency. She's committed to the advancement of Arab American physicians and has undertaken leadership roles in the National Arab American Medical Association. Dr. AlShrouf, welcome to Radio Baladi, and thank you for being with us. Let's start out by telling our audience a bit about you and your personal journey. There may be a misconception that education for women in Jordan was not accessible when you were younger. Yet you pursued a medical degree in Jordan and went on to important specialties in pulmonary and sleep medicine. So please tell us your story.
Hello, Renee. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me on this platform. Coming from Jordan, I remember the journey into going to medical school. It was not an easy journey to start with. As a female, even amongst your family, your close family members, you have to prove to them that you can do what your brothers or cousins can do, the male brothers and male cousins can do. You need a lot of support in the beginning from your mother, your father. My late mother and father did not have high education, but they believed in education for women. I have an older sister who's a physician too. But I remember hearing stories from, my cousins, my grandmother, like women should be, wives and mothers. And, even if they get an education, what are they going to do with those certificates? But my mom, may God rest her soul, was a big believer in education for women to improve their life, to, even if they don't pursue a career, they should have a very high education and be given equal opportunities. So when I finished high school, I remember a conversation with one of my cousins when I was waiting for, acceptance from medical school. He was, asking me not to be a physician because it's going to be hard. Maybe pursue a career in dentistry because it's easier for women. Whether or not he believed that we could do it as females, he didn't have that many, educated or female physicians in his life. So to start with, you have to prove yourself in your immediate small community and advance it. And when you go to medical school, your colleagues, we were about like 15% of the group in that class. And we were like, being called nerds because simple. It's if you're a medical student, you don't have much time to do what other students are doing. You barely have time to take your notes and get your rotations done. I remember more than once being like told by other colleagues, male colleagues, when we're doing rotations, you got to go to the women's section in psychiatry. I'm like, why would you tell us that? We're not back at the village where, women only deal with women. We have the right to determine where to go in the rotation, which floor to visit, and so on and so forth. So in addition to, the challenges you face by dealing with the patients, whether you're a student or a resident or a fellow or even an accomplished and subspecialized physician, male patients expect you to be, more understanding. First, they might think you're the nurse. They complain to you about the food. They ask you to bring them water. The more, sensitive part is sometimes, you see your male colleagues being called doctor and listened to immediately while you have to work hard to convince them about your profession. They call you honey, they call you sweetie, a male doctor is never called, handsome or, addressed by those, I don't know, very sensitive. I'm very sensitive to that part. And I'm sure I speak on my female colleagues' behalf too. The male patients also expect you to fill out more forms for them, although it's not your duty to do that. So the challenges, are endless, seriously. I'm not, exaggerating. In residency, as a female who has a family and have children, you're being challenged to prove yourself. You can't take, a couple of minutes to call your kids, although you do your job equal or better than your male partners, because being women, we are programmed. God created us to multitask, to know how to handle more than one thing at a time and not compartment, not to, just think in one thing at a time. So I remember so many challenges. One of my colleagues, who was like a brother to me, told me once, I don't want to see you look stressed out. Fake it until you make it. You have to put a smile on your face and do the job. You're doing it well. Just, sometimes you have to act the part until people are convinced. So that's one other thing an advice I will never, forget in my life. Applying to fellowship, interestingly, the program that I graduated from was there for years. And I was the first female to graduate that program.
Really?
This tells you, honest to God, this tells you something, that there are some specialties that are male dominated, and we all know that. And there are specialties that are, female dominated, but male dominated specialties are always perceived as a man should do this, like orthopedics. That will deter females from even applying to these specialties. Plastic surgeons, I think about 15 to 20% of them are females. Orthopedics, it's less than that. Pulmonary, where my specialty is, only 24% of women are in pulmonary. Based on salary-based, pay, according to studies made by Medscape and MedStudy, female pulmonologists are paid 33% less, despite all the challenges, despite the fact that in the same study, they say infectious disease like Dr. Samia and pulmonologists are the most physicians that are asked to fill out paperwork and get authorizations done, and so on and so forth. So the challenges are endless. I just encourage women to speak up for themselves and, politely and professionally, stop patients and colleagues from treating them in a different way, and to take them seriously and to negotiate. Have a mentor. I remember one of my daughters, who's a vice president in her company, I had her switch jobs a couple of times because she was not paid as her male equal partners who, have the same education and they're doing the same job. And at 1 year, there was a $15,000 gap in the pay when she was renegotiating her salary. So when it comes to this world, I think we have a lot to accomplish. We have to encourage women, empower women. Female soccer team in the US just won a case. They won the World Cup, and they found out that they're being paid much more than the men's soccer team. And, they just won that case. And hopefully that will improve and help other companies and other teams to appreciate women more and not take advantage of the gender bias. I'm
going to stop you there for 1 second, Dr. AlShrouf, because we're going to take a bit of a break and have our wonderful sponsors tell our audience about them. And I encourage you all to support our sponsors, because without them, we don't have Radio Baladi, and we don't have these important discussions. When we come back, we'll talk to Dr. AlShrouf a couple moments about her experience when she came to this country. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
While we've been staying safe at home, scientists have been on a journey. The destination, a COVID-19 vaccine. This journey began decades ago with research into other coronaviruses. Scientists built from there with months of research and development, cooperation with other experts worldwide, and clinical trials on tens of thousands of volunteers of diverse race, age, and health status. They arrived at a safe, effective vaccine, and hundreds of thousands in Michigan have already been vaccinated. But the next step is ours. We need to get the vaccine when we can. Keep wearing masks correctly and taking precautions until we reach our destination, freedom from COVID-19 and getting back to the lives we love. Discover the facts for yourself at michigan.gov/COVID vaccine. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Life is a nonprofit charity that's provided humanitarian aid and development to people and communities for over 25 years, regardless of race, color, religion, or cultural background. When disaster occurs here or around the world, Life for Relief and Development rushes in to provide food, medical aid, and shelter to those in need. Please help improve these efforts. Make your tax-deductible donation to Life now at lifeusa.org or call 248-424-7493. Get ready for an amazing experience at Ishtar Restaurant on 15 Mile Road in Sterling Heights. Enjoy excellent hospitality from owners Ali al-Baghdadi and Fatty Bonham, serving the best in Mediterranean food. Try Chef Ali al-Baghdadi's famous shawarma, the best Iraqi grills and food, and the best Arabic and international dishes. Dine in our authentic atmosphere or take out. Call 586-698-2585 or check us out on Facebook. Ishtar Restaurant practices all CDC guidelines and is open every day 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Have an amazing experience today at Ishtar Restaurant, 3625 15 Mile Road, Sterling Heights.
Hello again, everybody. This is Renée Ahee, your guest host on Radio Baladi, and you're visiting today with Dr. Amal AlShrouf and Dr. Samia Shafi. We're talking about an important subject, and that is the discrimination against women even at the very highest levels of our, if you will, our professions and our societies. They're physicians. So thank you, Dr. AlShrouf. Thank you, Dr. Samia Shafi, for being with us. And you were telling us a little bit about the support that you gave your daughter when you realized that she was not being paid equitably. And that appears to be across all professions. I can tell you a little bit, and the audience a little bit about our experience as public relations professionals. When it was dominated by men, they were making quite a fine salary. And as it became the feminization of public relations, salaries dropped. And even at the senior levels. So we want to find a way in our country here to get rid of those disparities. And we'll talk about the advice that you and Dr. Shafi have for our Arab and Arab American women in a little bit. But tell us a little bit about your experience when you came to the United States. Was your heritage, your religion, your accent, were they also barriers to advancement for you?
Of course it was. It's always have been. I mean, maybe in the recent years, with the use of social media platforms, people are seeing more Muslim women, more Arabs. They're introduced to the Arabic heritage and more of the Arabic culture and Arabic food. But back then in 1994, when I came to the States, which, for a woman to wear a hijab or a head cover, there are funny stories that I can tell. When I used to drop off my daughter to school, a lot of people would think I'm a nun, which is, an honor because nuns are looked at with respect. But also, like when you go to department stores, they look at you, what you're wearing. Are you going to be able to speak the language? Are you going to be able to press the keypad or sign it? And, what car are you driving? Do you deserve that? I mean, how come you're here and you're taking opportunities from, the people that are here? At the level of, when I was trying to change my international license, I remember if you have an international license at that time and you come to the United States, you only have to take the written part of the test. So I took the written part, and the lady at the DMV insisted that I have to take the driving part. And, I told her a little lie, which was not a real lie. I have to pick up the kids from school and I'll be back. And I surely did pick up the kids from school, and I went with my result to another DMV and I got my license that day. So I can't begin to tell you about the discrimination against head covered women, especially at the times where politics were intense around, we all remember the 2001
Absolutely.
incident, which is a tragedy. I remember being supported by my program director in medicine and my chairman. They were very supportive. We were in a Catholic hospital, and they approached me and asked me if there is any bias. So there are good parts of this. When they see you doing your job professional enough, you have the support. You just have to earn the trust. So people to judge you without dealing with you, that was the hard part.
Yes.
But once people got to know you, you easily could earn their trust, which was an amazing thing.
Well, I want to thank you for being here, because I would like to also ask some of these same questions to Dr. Samia, because I agree that what you're talking about has affected all women who enter the professions, whatever they are, and it's they're even more intense for women who choose to cover, Arab American women who choose to cover. So, Dr. Samia, welcome to Radio Baladi, and I would love to ask you some of the similar questions to Dr. Amal, because you two were educated in Jordan. And one of the things I wanted to tell the folks is that you also had your medical degree from the University of Jordan, and you came here. You have your residency in internal medicine and your fellowship in infectious disease from St. Michael's in, I think it was New Jersey, was it not?
Yes, Newark, New Jersey.
Yeah, yeah. And so you now work in Houston, Texas, and as an infectious disease specialist. And I'm sure you've been terribly busy over these last 2 years with COVID, probably unbelievably so. And for that reason also, thank you so much for being on Radio Baladi. Would you tell us a little bit about your experience about in Jordan and since you've come to our state and your adopted home?
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Renee, for allowing me to participate. Hello, everyone. I would like to start to say that I had great support from my parents to study medicine. I had 2 uncles who were physicians in the family, and they encouraged me. And at the same time that I entered medical school, I had 2 female cousins, same age as myself. We studied medicine. So that was a good achievement from the females in my family. But obviously, it wasn't a road without blocks and without difficulties and whatnot. I remember when I was going to medical school, one morning, my father was taking me to the bus stop, and our neighbor, a very nice, well-meaning gentleman, who said to my dad, "So where are you taking your girls?" And he told him, "I'm taking them to university." "What is she studying?" He said, "Medicine." He said, "No, you shouldn't be sending her to college. Girls belong to at home with their husbands, to have children and to take care of the house." So my dad said, "Thank you so much for your comment. I'll think about it." And of course, he just wanted to be polite. And we finished medical school. Years later, this gentleman gets admitted to the hospital at Jordan University Hospital. So my senior resident sent me to take care of him. So I wasn't sure if he remembered me or not. So I was nice to him, "Hello, uncle, can I help you?" He had his slippers underneath his bed. So he said, "Can you hand me my slippers?" And I said, he must think I'm, I don't know what he thinks. So I said, "Oh, uncle, do you remember I'm the daughter of Mr. So-and-so, your neighbor?" He said, "No, I know. And I'm talking to you as my daughter. Can you please hand me my slippers?" So I felt ashamed and I gave him his slippers. So it started off with, and of course, some people tell you, "Why do you want to go through the trouble of going into medicine? You're going to hang your degree in the kitchen." So things like that. And then, your colleagues look at you, you're competing with them, you're there, but thank God, it was tough medical school, University of Jordan was a really good school. So graduated and then came to the United States in 1984. So I was looking for residency and it was tough. Talking about discrimination as a foreign medical graduate is a big issue in addition to being a female. So I remember started to apply to different places and, I got rejections saying in 10 years, we have never allowed a foreign medical graduate to come to our school, this and that. Finally, when I got my residency, it was an unexpected opening at St. Michael's when one of the residents had to leave. Unexpectedly, one of my colleagues said, "Can you come?" I packed my things in a weekend. and went to New Jersey. I was in Texas at the time. So I ended up going there. And the first thing, we're going to offer you the year, but we don't guarantee you the next year or the year after. So you work for 1 year and you feel like so insecure. What am I going to do? What's going to happen next? But thank God, I was able to go through the full residency and of course the fellowship. And same thing, reiterating what Dr. AlShrouf said, you get your colleagues saying, after I finished the medical residency, one of them said, he worked with me on one rotation and I knew he had more experience than myself. So I said, you know what, I'm not going to interfere in your work. Just let me know what we need to do. And that's how we're going to run the rotation. So in the end, he says, well, doctor, as a female, you're doing well. So I didn't know whether I'm going to take this as a compliment or an insult.
That's indeed.
Yeah. So this is one of the things. And I remember talking about discrimination against women too, and, Arab American. I worked with one surgeon in one rotation in a different hospital, not St. Michael's. So we finished rounding on the patients and we were in an elevator full of people. And, when you're young and you come to this country, you don't know how to respond. So he looks at me and he says, so what do you want to do after you're done? Are you going to stay in the United States? And I said, yes. And he said, don't think you're going to come here, do your training and take the place of Americans and take their jobs. So I looked at him and I was, dumbfounded. I didn't know what to say. And then he left. He didn't even say, come with me or anything. He left me in the elevator and everybody else left. And there was one physician, an American white physician, he said, don't listen to him. He's a jerk. You're going to succeed. You're going to do well. This guy has always been a jerk. I just want to let you know. So that made me feel good. At least there was somebody who felt my pain and, and he responded. So,
in our conversation before we actually got on air, you had said too, you were at a disadvantage because you were trying to negotiate a salary and you weren't given enough information about what the disparities were.
Yeah, I don't know even the person I work with, how much money she makes.
Right.
And obviously talking about discrimination and how they perceive, of course, they always, when you walk into the room, male patients think you're either the social worker or the nurse or the dietitian. That's typical. So I joke with them and I say, well, I'm Dr. So-and-so, but if you don't believe in women doctors, I can leave and get you a male doctor. No, we are good. We can see you, please. And, one nice comment, it's nice. And one of our chief physicians at St. Michael's, when I was training, he said, I believe women doctors are way better than male doctors. He says, the only thing I have is because they go through the maternity leave and whatnot, some of them may leave the profession. So in medical school, they may have taken the place of somebody, a male, who had applied to medical school.
Mm.
So
for some reason, they're worried about us having their children.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. And it happens in corporate America.
Definitely.
It happens in corporate America. And we're going to talk a little bit about your advice for women in terms of learning negotiation skills and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But do you still, even particularly in this COVID environment, do you still encounter a degree of bias in either the patients you're treating or?
Not really. Actually, what I felt because of the COVID and the enormity of this pandemic, people felt because, they, at the beginning of the pandemic, people didn't want to go into rooms. So infectious disease physicians and pulmonologists were the only people who would go into the patient's room. So they were like so appreciative. And patients were crying because they were so lonely in the rooms, no visitors, nothing. So they felt that compassion, that we had a lot of compassion, and we would go into their room and spend some time with them, talk to them, treat them. So in that sense, I felt they appreciated who we are, and they didn't have that discrimination, whether I was a woman physician or a male physician going into it. Yeah.
In times of need, right? We can drop our biases. We can drop our preconceived notions of what a female doctor could be.
Yes.
This topic has become very important to me as I have talked with other female physicians who are, they feel the same pain you do. And we as Arab American parents want our kids to become doctors, engineers, lawyers.
Yes.
But we also sometimes we set them up because we don't have a level playing field.
Right.
And I'd like to explore this in a couple more minutes, but I'd also like to take a break, ladies and gentlemen, so you can hear from our sponsors. We'll be back in a couple minutes so we can continue this important discussion. Thanks for being with us.
At Top Rehab Physical Therapy Clinic in Dearborn, we provide effective physical therapy sessions in order to limit pain and discomfort. Top Rehab provides physical therapy care for any diagnosis prescribed by a physician, and we regularly see and treat conditions such as stroke, TMJ, fibromyalgia, sciatica, joint pain, and more. We use a variety of pain management methods, including modalities, soft tissue mobilization, and therapeutic exercise. If you're in need of physical rehabilitation or physical therapy, get the highest quality health care at Top Rehab. Most insurance is accepted, and we're open Monday, Wednesday, and Friday 8 to 6, Tuesday and Thursday 8 to 5, and Saturday 10 till 2. Call for an appointment today at 313-846-0555. That's 313-846-0555. Choose Top Rehab Physical Therapy Clinic on Michigan Avenue in Dearborn. Life's too short to be in pain. Enjoy the first Syrian-style cuisine in Michigan. At Davos Cuisine and Catering, you'll find a wide selection of Syrian foods and sweets in our menu, like frikeh, hoisin, grape leaves with steak, mishawi platter, hot mahashi, char-grilled kebab, shawarma, and much more. Get super fast delivery from Davos Cuisine and Catering right to your door. Order online at davoscuisine.com/menu and track your order live. Davos Cuisine and Catering, 28841 Orchard Lake Road in Farmington Hills. Call 248-987-4985. When it comes to reproductive medicine, IVF Michigan Fertility Centers are the recognized leaders. With locations in Bloomfield Hills and 5 other cities in Michigan and Ohio, IVF has experts in all aspects of the field. As a founding member of IVF Michigan Fertility Centers, Dr. Nicholas Shama is one of the leading reproductive endocrinologists in Michigan and Ohio. Dr. Shama has performed over 10,000 IVF cases and has helped thousands of couples fulfill their dreams of parenthood. American board certified in both obstetrics and gynecology and reproductive endocrinology and infertility, Dr. Nicholas Shama is a very caring, compassionate, expert physician that understands not only the medical but also the emotional toil of infertility on his patients. When it's time, get personalized care from Dr. Nicholas Shama at IVF Michigan Fertility Centers in Michigan and Ohio. Call toll-free 855-952-9600, 855-952-9600.
In a perfect world, everyone would be a perfect driver.
Hands at 9 and 3, everyone.
9 and 3.
Everyone would follow all the rules.
Please, go ahead and merge. I'll make room.
Thank you, fellow driver.
And nothing unexpected would ever happen. Even the squirrels would know the right time to safely cross the road. In this perfect world, you wouldn't have to wear a seatbelt. But in case you hadn't noticed, we don't live in a perfect world. About 1,000 people in Michigan die each year in vehicle crashes, and thousands more are injured. Wearing your seatbelt reduces your risk of death in a crash by 45% in a car and by 60% in a pickup truck. So until we find a perfect world to drive in, make our imperfect world safer by buckling up. A message from the Michigan Office of Highway Safety Planning.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. You're with Renée Ahee as your guest host, and we are with Dr. Samia Shafi from Houston and Dr. Amal AlShrouf from New Jersey. And we're back to talk about an important subject, and that is that even in our society nowadays, you'd think 2022, we'd get a little bit more parity. Physicians, female physicians make 25% less than their male counterparts in the same profession with the same amount of educational experience and professional experience. And as we were off air for a moment, Dr. AlShrouf was telling us too that during COVID, there are 2 physicians who need to be in the room or need to be on a case. And these 2 women represent those professions, the infectious disease specialist and the pulmonary specialist. So it's critical that the work that you do. And I have also been exploring for our organization called the National American Arab Nurses Association, a discussion about how medical professionals have actually become the surrogate or the patient's family when they can't come in, and they die in your hands. And so, it almost makes you cry because they're dying alone, and without you there, it would be even more horrendous. So I would like to talk a little bit about my own experience, not in the medical profession, but related to the medical profession. As Dr. AlShrouf knows, when I headed NAMA, the National Arab American Medical Association, I was paid $15,000 less than my male counterpart who preceded me. And it was very difficult to get to parity, and never did. But anyway, I wanted to tell you all about an experience that I had. I was honored to be invited to talk about my own experience with discrimination by the International Engineering and Operations Management Society to present at their Istanbul convention not too long ago. They had a panel on diversity and inclusion. So in my case, I am American born of Lebanese descent. My maternal and paternal grandparents came from Lebanon. My dad was born in Pennsylvania and my mother was born in Argentina. So in our home, we spoke 3 languages, English, Arabic, and Spanish. Although I can cuss very well in Arabic, but my colleagues here on the program know that it is somewhat difficult. If you don't practice it at home, it's hard to get. I'm the eldest of 3 children and the first generation to go to college. But as a child, I didn't feel different until I went to school. Well, there were other girls who were thin, straight hair. Mine was very, very curly. And I was teased about my one eyebrow and, curly hair and being chubby. I think you develop a sense of humor, which is not well placed because it is based in self-denigration, so that you can be protected from the kind of treatment that you would stop getting teased and being excluded. I went to Catholic schools from elementary through college, and it was from high school and college where I came into my own and into the profession of communications. But because we attended all girls' high schools and all women's colleges, the sisters, the nuns, encouraged us to use the brain that God gave us and said, God gave you a brain, he expects you to use it. And so I didn't realize what gender bias was until I got my first professional job. And 2 very similar experiences that my guests have had. One day on the job, I had worn an outfit that was the style of the day, and the division manager in front of several of my colleagues said, "Hey, Renee, if you wear that top every day, I'll give you a raise." I was mortified. I was embarrassed. I was shocked. And I never liked him very much anymore after that. But it was somewhat acceptable at that time, and he did not realize what that did in terms of my estimation of him and the respect that I no longer was able to give him. My being fair-skinned and speaking without a foreign accent has spared me the kind of discrimination and ethnic looking women or women who wear the hijab suffer every day. My own experience was with bias was the economic situation where I wasn't being paid equitably and hitting the glass ceiling when I was in corporate America. But my passion has been to help minority organizations, minority people through communication skills. So my clients have been Arab, Hispanic, and Asian communities in Michigan and heading NAMA and NANA, which is the Nurses Association, as their CEO, and the Arab American Women's Business Council. In the case of the AAWBC, my co-founders, Jumana Jude and Rose Khalifa, we realized that Arab American women were not necessarily being given access to capital to run businesses or encouraged to start businesses. And so, and particularly if they were covered. So in our culture and sometimes in our religion, we're faced with domestic pressures from our family. As you both have described, a different situation in your family. Why would the girls go to college and why would they go into medicine and so on and so forth? But it happens in other fields. I once mentored a brilliant accountant, actually she was a CPA, who was dealing with the pressures of being a mother of 3 children, a wife, a daughter of immigrant parents. And it broke my heart because at the same time they were so proud of her, they were putting tremendous pressure on her to do her duty. And I put that in quotes, right? Because there are unrealistic expectations that we would not have if she was a guy, right? So I would love to have you, Dr. AlShrouf, Dr. AlShafi, focus on our conversation on what you think women may be able to do, Arab and Arab American women may be able to do who face cultural or religious biases, who have professional biases that they face. And because you seem to have worked through that situation, those situations that you described, how did you do it? And what do you advise? In a conversation with Dr. Ruba Ali Fahmy, who is an accomplished pathologist at Detroit Medical Center, she recently told me how she was dismissively treated by her colleagues when they call her male colleagues call her their little sister. It's like you were saying, Dr. Shafi, that are you the nurse, are you the social worker, whatever, but little sister. And that's so demeaning to me that you wouldn't say that to a guy. You'd never say that to a male physician. Mm-hmm. I'll never forget what Dr. Anahid Kalwicki told me one day. She said, Renee, you could be the most educated person in the world, but if you speak with an accent, people think you're stupid. At that time, Dr. Anahid was the leading health officer for the city of Detroit, and she went on to be the provost and the dean of nursing for universities around the country, prestigious ones. And that never left me, because as a daughter of an immigrant mother and immigrant grandparents, I always thought that it meant you were smarter. You knew different languages, you experienced different cultures. So I'd also like you to talk about the anti-immigrant atmosphere we have here. Is what Dr. Anahid told me still true? So how do you advise our women to deal with what you've experienced? And maybe too, you can talk about what your daughters have experienced.
So if you allow me to start with, I think we're coming along, and it's a little bit better than before. Disparity amongst men and women is very obvious all over the world. Add to that the background, the different ethnicity, speaking a different language, just like you said, like I speak 3 languages. I speak Spanish, Arabic, and English. But what we have to do is have women have mentors, do their research, ask, don't, be polite, but be professional too. Like, don't accept those little hints and comments that, are thrown at you, whether from patients or colleagues or other people. Educate our daughters, our sisters, our, friends about how to be confident, be professional, do what you do in a very professional way, and do not accept, less. Ask about the salaries, what your counter colleagues are getting, and ask for the same. And if not, don't take it. Don't accept less. Teach our daughters to be more confident in themselves. Appearances are important overall in this society at this day and age, but you should not be treated as an object. We see this all over the world. And, recently in Hollywood, we have seen a lot of things, just like you said, about how women are perceived, whether what they're wearing or what they're covering or not covering. So educating our daughters, our sisters, and our friends about how to negotiate is an important thing, and present ourselves professionally, and take it or leave it. Just be more confident, be polite, be political, but don't take what you don't have to accept. Don't take it. I don't want to see the patient that wants to address me by the mother of, my son's name is Leif. He keeps insisting on what's your name, what's your son's name, so he can address me by that. So politely, object and don't take it.
And so let me ask a question before we move on. How would you do that? Let's say the comment that Dr. Shafi received in the elevator, for heaven's sake. She was young, of course. We're not necessarily enculturated to, hey, say that again and I'll give you one. How would you respond? Dr. Shafi, if it happened to you again today, what might you say so that we can help our women who are listening here, and we have a message for the men, is to be respectful. You wouldn't want this to happen to your daughters. You wouldn't want this treatment to happen to your wives. So why do you deliver it to other women? So tell us, how might you reframe what happened?
Yeah, I would say politely, I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you really meant. I think I will have the qualifications and the experience to apply for any job, and it's up to the place to see I'm fit for the job or not. So this will give him the hint that it's not up to you. You don't decide where my future is going to be. And I may also have felt the need to go and complain to his superiors that he had an insulting remark in front of people, which was really uncalled for and unnecessary.
Yeah. Dr. AlShrouf, how would you do that? And what kind of wording? Because sometimes when you say, don't take it. How do we as women frame that response? If you're said, what's your son's name so I can address you? Khalo, no, let's not. We're not going to do that. I mean, because I want to, right? So that's Renee's immediate responses.
It took me years to master how to deal with patients, which is something, I don't regret, but, to have to calm yourself down and take a nice deep breath and then answer, because you don't want to respond on impulse, because I could be like a little, too direct. The amazing thing is my daughter is helping me with my charts. She's my scribe now, and she's learning, from me how to deal with patients. So, I told them politely, you can just call me Dr. AlShrouf. It's okay. I say what's on my mind, but I say it with a nice political way that, I'm not creating an argument. You can just call me Dr. AlShrouf. You don't have to. My son's name is Laith, but, you can just call me Dr. AlShrouf. So, it takes time to master that, but I'm happy that I'm demonstrating that for my, medical assistants and nurses and my daughter too, who's going into medical school.
Ladies, if you'll hold on for a moment, we're going to take a break, and then I want to talk a little bit about, perhaps you all don't realize, but we've been talking about diversity and inclusion and equity for a very, very long time in our country and in corporate America here. So, ladies and gentlemen, stay with us. We'll be back in a couple minutes so that we can continue the conversation with Dr. Amal AlShrouf and Dr. Samia Shafi. We'll be right back.
Imagine you're on a train track. Somewhere miles away, a train is headed your way. You can't see it yet, but it's coming, slowly but surely. If you have prediabetes or you're at risk for type 2 diabetes, you may be on the wrong track, and diabetes could be heading your way. Bit by bit, the danger is getting closer and closer. So should you stay on the track you're on now or move to make a change and reduce your risk? If you have prediabetes or you're at risk for type 2 diabetes, you may qualify for the National Diabetes Prevention Program in your local community. This one-year program could be the ongoing support you need to put you on the right track. Not only did participants lose weight, they cut their risk of type 2 diabetes in half. Ready to get on board for a healthier future? Learn more about the National Diabetes Prevention Program and what else you can do to manage and prevent diabetes at michigan.gov/diabetes. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
When you're looking for the best in optical care, Dr. Imad Nakash is your doctor to see. With years of experience and thousands of successful procedures performed, you can trust your eyes to Dr. Imad Nakash. See Dr. Imad Nakash and his professional staff for your eye care needs. There's 2 locations to serve you. In Hazel Park, call 248-336-3937. 248-336-3937. In Rochester Hills, call 248-299-3937. That's 248-299-3937. Are you going to start a restaurant or a grocery store soon? Do you need floor plans and designs? Call Naji Abood at 734-744-9796. Do you want to buy kitchen and restaurant equipment at discount prices? Call Naji Abood now, 734-744-9796. New Concept Products and Design, the trademark of kitchen equipment. 5% discount on all purchases of $75,000 or more. New Concept Products and Design, new location, 31185 Schoolcraft in Livonia. Learn more at www.newconceptproducts.com. Call Naji Abood, 734-744-9796.
Are your hands feeling numb? Do you feel pain opening up a jar, turning a key? Are you noticing that your elbow and your shoulder are becoming stiff? Or were you recently injured in your arm? Hello, I'm Dr. Al-Majid Katranji, and at the Katranji Hand Center, which just recently opened down the street from the Somerset Mall, we can provide you with the latest in hand, wrist, elbow, and shoulder care. Visit us at www.katranjihandcenter.com to learn the latest techniques that we have to offer you, and I look forward to taking care of you.
Visit us in Troy at 1565 West Big Beaver Road, Building F, or call Katranji Hand Center for an appointment at 248-869-4263. That's 248-869-4263.
Welcome back, everybody, to Radio Baladi and a conversation with Dr. Amal AlShrouf and Dr. Samia Shafi. We were talking about tools that Arab and Arab American women might use as they encounter discrimination. I wanted to let everybody know that this is not a new topic. And for those of us who have been in the work of doing the work in ethnic communities and in corporate America, I remember way back in the 80s, that might tell you how old I am, but we were talking about this in the banks that I worked at. We had diversity committees, we had sensitivity training and all of that. And decades later, we're still fighting that same fight. And so we started to talk about negotiation skills. I think, Dr. Shafi, you mentioned it. How does a woman then develop the gut for, the confidence for negotiating on her own behalf, being her own advocate?
I think you have to teach all young women and all women in general that you have to believe in yourself. Your brain is not any different than the man's brain. You have the same intelligence, the same intellect, everything. So you have to believe that you can do what you want to do. And the most important thing as a woman, as an Arab woman, in my opinion, is you have to also keep your self-respect. You're not a sex object. You're not a man's maid. You're not there to just bear him children. You are his equal, his partner, the most important thing. So when you go to the workplace, you have to have this confidence that you can do it. You're not going to be put down, and you can assert yourself by being polite, using the right language, and just know what your rights are and what is the chain of command in any workplace, so that you can go and complain if somebody starts harassing you. And there are laws against harassment nowadays and against everything. Yeah.
Of course. Also, I would like to offer a suggestion to ladies. There are courses in negotiation. Mm-hmm. You can take it from your community college. You can take it online. And as Dr. Shafi was saying, there are laws that you can familiarize yourself with to be ready.
Yes.
You know, you don't want to get into a fight. That's not the point here. But we do have a message for all of those in the legislatures. We are interested in equal pay for equal work. We don't have to deal with denigrating conversations. We don't have to deal with any of that. And our male counterparts will respect us when we are able to advocate for ourselves, I think. As we move to the latter part of our program, one of the things I would like to say is, ladies and gentlemen, discrimination in any form is wrong, absolutely wrong. Honoring and valuing diversity, equity, and inclusion have long been recognized as hallmarks of good business and a good society. So our treatment of women, who are our mothers, nurturers, sisters, daughters, brilliant minds, then world leaders, must be equal and equitable for our world to flourish and to survive, and to give our children, our male and our female children, a role model of what is a good society, what is an equitable society, what is the way it should be. And so I saw a quote from American actor Meryl Streep not too long ago. As we wrap up our program today, I'd like to leave it with you to ponder and then to take what I call right action. She said, I do honestly think that if women were running the world, there would be more investment in peace. Because basically, as women, we do not want to see our children killed. Maybe I am completely idealistic, she said, but until we see women in equal positions of power in the world, I just think we are doomed. And that hit me as a very important statement. Mm-hmm. Here, as we enter, or just leaving Women's History Month, and we're entering Arab American Heritage Month, we have a lot as Arab Americans to be proud of. There are certain things that we want to work on, certain things we want to improve on, and that's the inclusivity and the equal treatment of our Arab and Arab American women in our households as well as our society. So do you have any parting comments, Dr. AlShrouf, Dr. Shafi?
I mean, for myself, I think we have a long way to go. Being discriminated against as Arab women is not a surprise in America, the first country in the world where so far we did not have a female president. So, when, just like you have said, we gotta have the confidence in ourselves and in our capabilities and professionalism and fight the fight. Be political, be polite, but stand your ground, fight for your rights, fight for your position, and for equal pay. Not having a female president in the first country of the world says tremendous, things. We know who ran, we know Hillary Clinton ran, and she was educated, had all the equipments and the tools to be an amazing president, but she didn't win. I'm not trying to talk politics, but in general, the bias is there and it's going to be there. But it's our job to educate our kids, our friends, everyone, that we can do it and we can probably do it better than anyone else. And we're just as smart and educated and professional.
That also speaks, ladies and gentlemen, to the importance of voting. Dr. Shafi, do you have any parting comments?
Yes, I feel more hopeful and optimistic because the women of our generation who had gone through the discrimination in the workforce will educate their daughters and also their sons. It's very important to educate the sons before the daughters to respect your sisters, your mom, and then you can respect your colleagues. They're your equal partners and they're not your sex objects. I think if we go from that platform, our young generation, I feel, have been educated a little bit differently than the older generation. And I'm so hopeful that the future is better for women.
Thank you so much to our guests, Dr. Amal AlShrouf and Dr. Samia Shafi, for sharing your experiences and your sage counsel. Thanks to all of you for joining us today on Radio Baladi. Stay safe, everyone, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.